Got a very special guest tonight. Gentleman's joining us from a band that started down here. I think I had the honor of booking one of their very first shows at Tipitina's with a metal band. And once you hear what he does, it doesn't make sense as far as the lineup goes. But very special guest tonight. Graduated in 2008 from this program here in Loyola and does really well right now, playing in a band called the Revivalists. We've got Michael Girardot. Come on up, man.
All right. Can you hear me? Sweet.
All right.
So, my name is Michael. I play in the Revivalists. I graduated here in 2008. Did a whole bunch of stuff around town, was in a lot of bands, and joined the Revivalists. We've been a band for 10 years, and we went from where you guys are. Three of us went to Loyola, graduated from this program. Three of us went to Tulane across the street. One guy we found, moved down here from Ohio State. But we went from where you are, and we're now make our living solely off of music. And we're doing pretty well now. So I hope.
How many of you guys have heard of the Revivalists? Can we give it up for them real quick? Everyone, please. Thank you. Right on.
Yeah. So, first I just want to talk a little bit about where we were and how we got through those first couple years. I know a lot of you guys are in the same boat, but we didn't have any way to get around at first. We were playing these same shows. Our first show was at Checkpoint Charlie's. We played these opening slots at Tipitina's. We would play on the quad. But after we graduated, we started touring about 3 weekends a month. We all had other jobs to pay the bills because we weren't making any money from it. We eventually started being able to pay ourselves a little bit, and then we started taking, a week off a month on our jobs, and it developed into something where we were making enough to just barely pay our rent. And we did that for many, many years, played 100 or 150 or 180 shows a year. Barely paying rent. Then we had a song hit on the radio, and things have kind of blown up since then. Now we have a show, this week at Red Rocks. We sold 12,000 tickets. Our last single went gold and was #1 on the radio. Our current single that we just dropped is doing really well on the radio. But yeah, I just want to, help you guys figure out and answer your questions about how we got from where we were to where we are. So
Absolutely. So we're going to do me and Mike are going to talk for maybe 10, 15 minutes, kind of give you a little bit more background, set up a few things, and then from there we'll go into kind of a Q&A where he'll pull up some special unseen stuff. So I think we're in for a good little treat.
Cool.
So with that said, Mike, yeah, I appreciate the whole background there. That pretty extensive.
Yeah.
Let's talk real quick, and let's let them know what your role's been in the band, kind of since you started, and the way you just kind of presented everything. It's obvious that there was no overnight.
Definitely not.
Stardom for you guys. That you grinded it out for a long time.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that's made your role from the beginning to where you are now a whole lot different. So maybe give us a little background on kind of how that's developed as well.
Yeah, so I've been involved in a lot of things. When you're an emerging band, you do everything yourself. So our bass player did a lot of the booking. Our drummer did a lot of the booking. You probably helped us.
Both went here, and one was my roommate.
Yeah. I used to set up the merch every night. I used to handle the stage plot and input list and plugging things in, and the website, and ordering merchandise, selling merchandise. As our team got bigger and we could afford to start employing people to help us out, some parts of my roles got taken over by other people, which was awesome. And, I started doing other things. And, but I play keys and trumpet and sing, and I'm involved, in a lot of the creative aspects of the website, of a lot of the other stuff we do logistically and production, and all that.
When it comes to production, real quick, that only because I talk about it all the time in my classes and even up here. How important is advancing your show well?
Like, it's the most important thing for being comfortable on tour. So we've had a chance to have some really good tour managers, and as we've grown and we've been able to afford more experienced tour managers, you can really see a difference in what the people that end up warranting a higher salary do for you. So is anybody familiar with Master Tour? Like 2 of you? Okay, so Master Tour is this system that pretty much every band that's on the road a lot uses to put all the information in. So the tour manager or band member or whoever is advancing the show will gather all the information weeks before, put everything in Master Tour, and that is like, it can be really detailed, and the more detailed it is, the more it helps you out. But when you wake up and you can look at an app and you know what time you're doing everything, where the nearest coffee shop is, what hotel you're staying at, the phone numbers of everybody else in the crew, the phone numbers of the people at the venue, if you can take a shower today or not, that's all stuff that you advance and you put in there. So, yeah.
So tell us a little more. I'm kind of trying to stay on that path of that progression that you guys have made, right? So you mentioned as you can afford the higher salaries or the more deserving people of higher salaries.
Yeah.
The better and the more efficient things get, and the bigger team your team builds. What kind of things were you guys looking for early on, to know that you were ready to pay that person to play that role?
Gotcha. So, as many of your professors might be giving you the same advice, but you should try to do everything yourself until you can't do it well anymore. Because even if you're not the expert at it, you care more about your own art than anybody else is going to care about it. So some of the people we hired because we had to, we got into a couple, we would go and we would try to do everything ourselves until we got to a point where when you're playing a certain size venue, you can't, as a band member, set up the merch, sell all the merch, and play the show, and then sell more merch night after night after night. So once you get to like a 1,000 cap room where you're headlining, you're missing out on sales. So merch person is one of the things we got. The first person we hired was a sound person, and that was really important as a 7-piece band to have a sound person. And for every band, it's different, like what you need on tour and what parts of your team you want to hire someone to do. Every band needs a different person on board first. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
If you're a 7-piece brass band, might not need that sound guy.
Correct. Yeah.
As soon as you do for a 7-piece rock band. So
yeah.
It's very nuanced. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So with that as well, when you got to those points, was it a decision that you would make as a band or with your management, or?
Both. Our band is, we're all owners in the company. It's a very democratic process, but, if someone really is passionate about something, everybody will go with that. So sometimes it's a band decision, and the bigger decisions always need to be a full band decision for us. But then sometimes, management will come to the band and say, hey, look, we see this. We see you guys need this person or this thing, and, that'll make it happen. They'll convince us. So.
And I happen to know Revivalists have always been that democratic system,
Yeah.
But you personally, you have a lot of experience in a multitude of bands, right?
Correct, yeah.
And you're well-versed and very talented in a multitude of
Yeah.
instruments as well. Can we get a little background on that too?
Yeah. When I was in Loyola, I was in 4 bands that played regular shows. After I graduated, I think I was in a different 4 bands that played shows. I learned how to do a lot of different things. And every band, there's kind of a different dynamic. And as a musician, it's important to, be personally aware of the dynamic and figure out how you can fit in with that and your band members. And maybe it's a band leader type of situation. Maybe it's a democratic situation like we are. Maybe it's something else where, two people make the decisions and the rest of everybody else just goes along with it. But it's really important to be friendly, be nice, and work with whatever situation and dynamic you're in.
Because for you personally, prior to Revivalists and taking off,
yeah,
you were doing music full time, right? I mean, you were playing as a hired gun and a lot of other things.
Yeah, I was playing as a hired gun. I had my own band. I was a lead singer in.
Rest in peace. You still do reunion shows, right?
We've never had a farewell show, so technically
Good.
We haven't broken up, but we haven't played in 3 years. So
I text him about once a year and ask him to play.
Sometimes we say yes.
Have any of you guys heard of Big Rock Candy Mountain? Yeah. Oh, personal New Orleans rock band favorite. Go home and look up whatever old tracks you can find on the internet.
Yeah.
They're awesome. And you were the frontman for that, right?
Big Rock Candy Mountain. You're welcome.
And in that situation, you did lead vocals. And
I did lead vocals, and that was more my project. When you're in a 4-piece band and, you're the lead vocalist and you're also doing a lot of the business stuff, some things are a lot easier because if you want to make a decision, you can just make that decision yourselves. A lot of bands these days are smaller. They're 2-piece electronic or hip-hop acts or 3-piece rock bands, and a lot of stuff is easier that way. You have to get a lot less people on board to make a decision, but some stuff is harder that way. For instance, you can't play 5 or 8 or 10 parts without the assistance of Ableton Live,
right.
If you're a 3-piece band.
Not to sidetrack too much, but correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Big Rock play some music on a video game?
Yes,
were you
I am
responsible
a playable
for that?
character in NBA 2K11, where Big Rock Candy Mountain has a track.
Did you make that happen, that deal?
Yeah, so so we went and who here has been to South by Southwest? Who here has skipped a week of class for South by Southwest? All right. I encourage you to do that. Sorry. So we went and played South by Southwest, and I think the second or third year we met some people at a showcase that ran licensing for 2K video games. So they were impressed by the show. We put on a good show in I think it was 20 degrees and raining, or 30 degrees. I guess it has to be 40 degrees and rain. It was very cold. But we put on a very good show. They were impressed, and they put us on their video game. So that's how that happened.
Very cool. Well, we could probably sit here and talk for a while. So
yeah, we could talk for forever, but I kind of want to I want to show you a little thing I have. I brought with me our most recent single, All My Friends. I brought both the finished track and the stems and the studio session. So we can kind of do a mini short song exploder on that. And then I want to open it up to questions, because I could talk, but I don't know what you guys want to know about. So I'd love to hear, after we're done with this, what you guys are curious in hearing about and what questions I could answer. So
cool. Let's show them some stuff.
Cool.
For the record, Michael, we didn't establish earlier all the different parts you play in the Revivalists.
I played all the horn parts that were not saxophone. I played all the keyboard parts, and I did a lot of the backing vocals on that one. So now we're going to any questions thus far that you want to yell out or come up on the mic and ask? No? Everybody's too scared. Oh, one.
Classically trained, how's that affected you and your music making at this so far?
I'm a better horn player because I can play more stuff because I'm classically trained. But classically trained meaning that I've studied with other people that are better than me, you know? And I think it doesn't matter. And a lot of instruments, like I'm more self-taught at piano. So I kind of come from both. I kind of know how to do both. And there are advantages in both. Someone who's not classically trained and hasn't studied what's correct on an instrument might come up with a really unique way to play it. But there are a lot of advantages for me, particularly as a trumpet player, for studying at university. I took trumpet lessons here, and I got a lot better from it. And I probably couldn't play as high or as long or with one hand if I was not classically trained. But if I was true to being classically trained, I would never play one-handed trumpet and play keyboards with the left hand, which is what I do on stage, because that's not correct. So I would say being classically trained is great, and you should definitely do that if you have the ability to, and Loyola has some great professors. But don't tie yourself into doing whatever's proper if you think something else is artistically cooler. So, yeah. Anything else?
Let's, you want to show them some more, and then
Yeah,
we'll
I'll
full
show you
on
some more.
open up to some questions, because I feel like we'll have a lot coming in, and I'll run out with the mic and stuff.
All right. Yeah. All right. All right, let me show this first. All right. So this is unmastered, and this is the stems. So is any
Explain
should I
stems.
explain what stems
yeah,
are?
not
Okay.
everyone here might know.
So when a song is mixed, you mix it into the 2-track which you deliver to all of your DSPs, your digital service providers like Spotify, and that goes on your record. A professional mixer will also deliver stems. Sometimes they will deliver stems to the mastering engineer as well as the 2 tracks, in case the mastering engineer hears something and needs the stems to fix it. What stems are is they are the mix, but they are the mix broken down. So for instance, you heard the drums in the last unmixed thing. So stems are every instrument kind of broken down. So you have drums, percussion, bass, 4 different guitars. So, but it's a lot less. We only have 16 tracks of stems. That's what stems are. So I'm going to play a little bit, and now you can hear what our song sounds like mixed but not mastered. I'm in my 20s. And I'm just going to go straight to the chorus. Say again? Yeah, I'm in Logic now. We didn't use this. It's just the thing I'm most familiar with, so I loaded the stems into that. Also, it's the thing that everybody in the band has, so they can all use this to listen to stuff as well. So yeah, so that's what the stems sound like, and then this is what the master sounds like. Cool. So so you can kind of see the difference of like what unmixed is. Yeah. Thank you. Well, thank all the people that mixed and mastered and wrote that song. So you can kind of see what the difference like a mix or good mixer makes. It was mixed by Neil Avron, who is in LA. And it was mastered by Sterling Audio in New York. So you can kind of see what the difference all that work makes. It's really awesome when you can afford to hire the best people and spend a whole lot of money on the people that do that. And when you can't, you try to strive for being that good at it, and you never quite can hit it, but it's important to know like what the steps are and what's important. And when you have the money to spend on those people, spend it and make your music better. So
Cool. We ready to open up for questions?
Yeah, let's open it up
do
for
that.
questions.
I'll try and run around with the mic too.
Yeah. So let's do.
Wait.
I'll let Mike pick the questions and the people.
So I have a 2-part question.
Okay.
Do you usually mic the shit out of drums? Because there were like 11 drum stems.
Yes.
And if you do you make that decision, or does the engineer make that decision for usually like what type of gear you use, or?
So usually it's a
how you layer
combination of, so in a larger studio session, you'll have a couple of people making these calls. You'll have the assistant engineer, who's usually always a house engineer who knows the room and the studio. You'll have the lead engineer, which can be someone that is a house engineer, but also can be someone that doesn't work in that studio usually and is flown in from somewhere. You'll have the producer, and then you'll have all of the band members also yelling out their opinions in the studio too, right and wrong. So mostly it'll be the engineer, the lead engineer, making those calls on what mics you use, how you put them, but the producer will say things like, sometimes the producer's really familiar with recording techniques and is also an engineer and will say, hey, let's try this mic here, let's try to compress this like that. Sometimes they'll be a little more vague with the engineer and they'll say, hey, I want this to sound more like this kind of drum sound from this artist or this era. So we have kick in, we have a sampled kick, we have kick out, sub kick, snare top, bottom, rack floor, stereo overhead, room mic, a room mono crunch, and room mono. So these you can hear are super compressed room sounds. And a lot of times, there we go. Oh, you can't even hear that. That's probably not in the mix. Okay. So a lot of times you'll use a lot of that mono drum sound, and a lot of that's something I didn't really know about until we started working a lot in studios. But this mono crunchy room sound on drums is really nice.
All right, next. I'll try and work my way all the way around.
Hi, how's it going?
Good.
So my question for you is, at the beginning stages of being in this band, what did you do to market your shows and bring in a crowd? Because you talk a lot about the musicality, but what about the business side?
I'm going to just open this up so it's not my thing. There are a lot of things you can do. Our first shows, we came to Forum and made announcements, and we reached a lot of people that also had shows on the night that we were playing shows. When we were starting out, it was most of our exposure and most of our fan base was through touring, and we built a pretty successful, if not, incredibly lucrative career just off of touring. Before we had any radio success. A lot of that came from playing shows, but mostly it came from playing shows out of town. So you guys, if you have a weekly gig, you can get only so many people to come to your gig every week, and then they're not going to come every week anymore because you've played the same show. Even if you're improvising, they kind of get it. We had one thing we did where we would go play once a weekend. We'd play 3 shows in Pensacola, Florida at this beach bar where we played 3 sets Friday, 3 sets Saturday, and 2 sets Sunday. It was very grueling, but we made a lot of fans in Pensacola, and because it's a tourist destination and was kind of a tourist bar, we got a lot of people coming and seeing us from out of town. And we just got out there and we played a lot, and honestly, most of it's word of mouth. Social media marketing, flyering, only works to some extent if someone already kind of knows you, and you're just trying to tell them that they have a show that this band they kind of know is playing. To get new people out to the show, you need to play such a good show that the 5 people that are there go out and each tell 5 people, I saw this amazing show. And the next time you go play that city, which hopefully is within 2 months. Otherwise, they'll forget about you. They'll bring more people to the show.
So when you played these out-of-town shows, did you have like an email list or things? Because we have professors talk about, getting emails. And
Absolutely.
Is that how you alerted people you were coming back? Or?
Yeah, we had an email list. We had a Facebook group. We had fans of ours make their own Facebook groups. Like our fans made a Pensacola Facebook group and a Key West fans
That's
Facebook
awesome.
group. And they would kind of like, make sure everybody knew about the shows too. So a lot of it happened organically. We did a lot of email marketing. We did a lot of social media marketing, Facebook ads. And then, once we hit the radio, that helped out a lot too, probably more than anything else.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi.
Hi.
Sorry. First of all, my mom is a huge fan of you guys. She loves you guys.
Oh,
She thinks you guys
thanks.
are awesome.
Thanks.
And,
I like to say that we're like the band that everybody's mom loves.
You guys are great. Yeah, I told her, and she was very happy. She says hi.
Tell her I say hello.
She's gonna love it. And second thing is, I kind of consider myself somewhat of an expert on what do you call it, band names. And I think you guys have a really good one.
Thank you.
And I'd like to know the story behind it.
The story behind it is our lead singer was watching a 60 Minutes special on Bruce Springsteen, and the band name that the band currently had was Purple Good Friends, which, can you give me your expert opinion on that band name?
It's pretty awful.
Exactly. So our guitar player was watching a 60 Minutes special about Bruce Springsteen, where they described his shows as having a revivalist's fervor. And that's not something he really used to describe rock and roll music for. He liked it, and that became the band name.
Awesome.
Also, interesting fact is Alabama Shakes originally wanted to be called the Revivalists and then looked us up on MySpace and saw that we were already a band, and so they named their band Alabama Shakes.
What's MySpace?
That's how old I am. It's that bad website that Justin Timberlake bought.
Hello. All right, so the question I have, it's kind of a two-part question
Sweet.
as well. So what goes into effectively choosing good people to work with as far as touring?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do those relations work? And what is the, not saying like any role is more important than the other, but what role is more critical to get first when hiring people? Like which one?
Gotcha.
do you
You're talking
absolutely
about
need?
people not in the band.
Correct.
Cool. I'm assuming you're in a band, right?
Yeah.
How many people are in your band, and what kind of band is it?
4, and we're post-punk alternative.
Okay. Cool. So it really depends. Like for your band, a lot of the stuff you can do yourself. If you guys are here at music business school, a lot of the stuff you already know how to do. Advancing, Mike can tell you about. Live sound, Jay can teach you about. How to make an input list and do that sort of stuff. So there's the touring crew and the non-touring crew. For us, the most crucial person we got first was a booking agent. That's not a touring crew role, but that was the first thing we got that helped us out the most. We then got management, and we rolled up for probably about 5 years with no touring extra crew. Being a seven-person band, it kind of limited how many people we can fit. We were in a 15-passenger van in a trailer, and we were doing shows 6 hours apart, where we'd have to play the show, drive 3 hours, sleep 5 or 6 hours, drive another 3 or 4 hours, load in, play the show, and then do it all over again. So when you add another person, you subtract places to sleep in the van. But the sound, I would either say most people for touring crew, the three things that you get first, depending on what you guys feel comfortable doing yourself, is front of house, tour manager, and or merch person. And depending on what you guys feel comfortable doing yourself and how crucial each of those things are, or if you can find somebody that can do multiple of those things, it would depend.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
I just wanted to ask, how does y'all's songwriting process work? When, like, if y'all are, like, writing a new song or something, like, how did y'all, like, promote it, like, and all?
It works in many different ways. Sometimes we'll be jamming in a sound check and we'll kind of fall into a chord structure and some instrumental parts, and then somewhat of a melody, and then we'll record it on our phones, and then someone will take it back and write lyrics to it. Sometimes someone demos a song with a guitar all by themselves, and it's kind of fully written. Sometimes someone has a chorus idea or a verse idea, but it doesn't really have a hook. It doesn't have the other parts, and so they bring it to one or multiple people in the band, and we flesh it out. This record, we also worked with a lot of co-writers. So different members of the band, flew around to Nashville or LA, or had people come here to New Orleans and wrote with people that are very, very good at writing songs. That's something that I don't know if I don't know if it's something I knew a lot about until this last record, but it's really helped us. The songs are still ours. The songs still, sound like us, but we had some really great people come and help us, flesh them out a little bit more, arrange them in the right way, add the right chorus, suggest that we, change something in a chorus that really helped the song, sound great and be catchy. So it can happen all different ways, and it's different for every band, and it's different for every song you write, in the same band. Yeah, there's one up there.
Right.
Hi, thanks for coming.
You're welcome.
So I have a question. How do you guys keep the motivation to keep producing and keep making music, and what moves you, what motivates you to do so?
It comes from a lot of stuff, when a lot of there are many different ways to answer that question. Musically, I think all of us just gravitate towards that because we can't communicate ourselves as well through words. But just career-wise, it can be really hard sometimes. A lot of times what is your passion can turn into just a job. And you'll have spells where it'll feel really hard and like you're not getting anything out of it, or like you should be having more recognition than you have currently, or no one likes what you're doing, or like you don't get along with so-and-so on tour or so-and-so in management. And it can be really hard sometimes. Music industry is not the easiest thing to do. You're mixing business and art. It's a lot easier when those are separate. But in order to make it a career, you have to combine those in a healthy way, and you have to find your own way to make that work for you. For us, I think it helps that there are a lot of us, and so when one of us is having a rough day or one of us is not inspired, someone else can kind of pull us out of there and pull us along with them and be like, hey, remember, this is fun. Let's have fun with it. Let's get back excited about the music. And I think too, for a lot of it has been about our fans. Our fans have really, our fans started out as, someone who we knew who came to see the show, and let us crash on their couch. And now some of those people we've been friends with for 10 years, and we know their kids and their wives, and they played us at their weddings. So a lot of it, a lot of that gives it meaning too. So, but one of the guys was talking about mental health. Mental health in the music industry can be really hard. It can be really hard to be on tour. You can feel really isolated. But so it's really important to be there for everybody else in your group. Be there for everybody else that is, that is touring. And, if you're the person that is touring and doing this as a career, make sure to maintain the relationships with the people that you have, and put in that work so that they can help you out when you're having a bad day, or you're not feeling inspired, or you kind of want to give up, because you can't do it by yourself. So
I got a quick question.
yeah.
What are you touring with these days as far as bus and trailer, bus and another box truck? Are you up to a
it's
semi?
a combination of things. So we went from 15-passenger van with the 2 seats out in the back, with all the gear loaded in the back seat, and then we got a 5x8 trailer, and then we had all the seats in the 15-passenger van and the 5x8 trailer. Then we went to a 15-passenger van and a 7x16 trailer, and we broke our van 6 times, and we got rid of the 7x14 trailer and got a 6x10 trailer, and then we toured with that. Then we broke 2 15-passenger vans, the second one of which we then sold to Naughty Professor, and got a Sprinter. We've had 2 Sprinters. We crashed one into a deer. The other one is currently dead, and we're trying to fix it. What we tour in is when we do a long run. So when we're doing a run where we're doing 2 weeks out at a time, we'll do a bus and a semi. But we do, most of our dates are not that. Most of our dates, we bring our gear there in either a box truck or a rider van or a semi, depending on whether we have just our backline or backline and lighting and audio and production, and then we'll fly there. So it's a myriad of combinations of ways to get there, and that's why you need a tour manager and management. When you get to the point where you're not just driving to the gig, you're trying to, you need to know when you book a gig that you can get from getting done with the show in Cleveland at 10 p.m. to showing up for a sound check in Atlanta at 8 a.m. the next morning. And if you can't, the management and tour manager will know, oh, we can't do that show. We have to move sound check back or book you at a different day. So it's a myriad of things. It's really, really complicated at this point where we are. But we have some great people doing all the logistics for us now.
What's the road crew?
The road crew is tour manager. We have a stage manager who is Amy Pertwee, now Amy Hoffman, who also a Loyola graduate. We have a lighting designer or lighting director who runs the lighting. We have front of house, monitor engineer, merch person, driver/drum tech. How many is that? Is that 8? Bus driver sometimes, and I'm probably forgetting someone else.
So touring party of close to 20 people if you include you guys.
Touring party of 8 in the band and between 7 and 12 in the crew, depending on which show it is.
Down here.
And all of those jobs are really fun things that band members are always looking for. Some people I know start out as being musicians, and if you have the know-how and you're nice enough and you're smart enough and you can still be nice after not sleeping, then you can make a really great money and have a lot of fun, being touring crew. It's really important, and especially a lot of the jobs, you're like as important to the show as the band, particularly the front of house and the lighting are just as much a part of the show as, what music is being played by the musicians coming off the stage.
All right, I'm not in a band. I'm a rapper.
That's great.
But
you did it right. You don't have to have 8 other people in the bus with you.
But did you tour during college?
Yes, but very minimally.
Okay. All right. Let's say I want to do that. How would you what would you tell me if I wanted to do that?
If you want to tour during college, weekends are great places to play. There are a lot of places around here you guys can play that you can get to in a weekend. So you're looking at a maximum about 8-hour drive and an 8-hour radius of. So you could leave here, play a show 4 hours, between 2 and 4 hours away on a Friday night, and then you can play a show another 4 hours or 5 hours beyond that on a Saturday night, and then take Sunday to drive back. Just pull up Google Maps and draw a 4-hour radius, and those will be your Friday shows, and draw 8 to 10 hour radius, and those will be your Saturday shows, and make sure you have a car that doesn't break down, and make sure you get your mechanic to check it out before you leave so you don't miss a gig. But yeah, find people that you might be able to trade shows with. Hattiesburg, Pensacola, Baton Rouge, Lafayette, Lake Charles, Jackson, Mississippi. Mike, what cities am I forgetting? Oxford, Mississippi. Memphis, so those are the 4 hours. So then you go to 8 hours, and you're at Memphis, Atlanta, Austin, Houston,
Nashville.
Dallas. You guys can look at a map and do the math, but that's a really great way to tour when you're in college, and you can do that every weekend. Theoretically, you can do it every weekend. Mentally, you probably don't want to do that every weekend. You want to do it maybe 2 weekends a month or something like that.
Any more? Anyone else on this side of the room?
Another Sam question.
Well, we'll do a couple more here.
So can you explain a little bit how the label situation came about, and also that was in the past, but where you are now, do they choose your management, or do you choose that, or at least have a say in that at all?
Gotcha. I think a better way to answer that question is what major team members do we have? So that's label, that's management, that's booking agent, publicist, and publisher. So our label is C3 Management. They're out of Austin and New York and Denver. If you can get an internship with them and you're into management, you definitely should. They do summer internships. Our booking agent used to be Madison House, and now it's Paradigm. Our record label, we've only signed one record deal, but our labels keep folding. So we've been on Washington Square. We've been on, and now we're on Loma Vista and Concord. Our publisher used to be a separate publisher and is now bought, and so we're on Concord Publishing now. And then, did I get everyone? Oh, publicist is Press Here out of New York and LA. So those are the different major people that we work with, which are other companies. Some of those you pay a fee. Some of those take a percentage of the gross. And all of those we've had at different times. And so your management, if you have management, will usually help you select your everybody else on your team and manages the relationship and the communication between everybody on the team. And that's super hard job, but our management does it really well. And they've helped select some of the people in the team. They also kept a lot of people that were on the team before we switched to that management company. So, so we basically at the beginning, before we had tried to get a booking agent for a long time, and we jumped from did you ever book us?
Only like way early on as
Stu
like just a
Shire
friend.
from the Howling Wolf used to book us, and then we got like a small regional booking agent. But we pick all those people, and our management helps us make those decisions and advises us. But ultimately, it's the band's call. The band has to sign off, or the artist has to sign off on all of that. And sometimes it can be really, really nerve-wracking to sign away a deal for your next 5 albums, or publishing for 8 or 10 years of publishing, or so your publishing deal and your label deals are usually deals with where they want to know, because they're investing their own money into you. They want to know that if you start to be successful, they're going to reap the benefits of that. So those are big commitments, and those are hard decisions to make. And a lot of people would say, well, why did you sign away all your rights? You should have kept doing it yourself. But you get to a point where you have to decide if you're going to lose some potential percentage in favor of making your business way better. And our label's done really well for us. Our deal was a 5 out, we had an album that we already had out. They have administration rights on the 2 albums that were already out. They re-released another album, which they own. They own this album and a few more albums after that. It has ancillary. So what that is it's not a 360 deal. They don't take a percentage of everything, but they do take a small percentage of a lot of things that aren't record sales. And that's something that, sometimes you'll get asked to do a 360 deal. If you don't ask to do a 360 deal, pretty much every label now is going to ask for some sort of ancillary, which is sometimes 10 or 20% of touring income, or merchandising, or other stuff like that. But yeah, our label's been really good, and it was a really hard decision to sign with the label. But it's we wouldn't be the band we are right now, and we wouldn't have the careers we are right now if we hadn't found a label, and it hadn't been a label that was really excited about us, and the owner of the label, who was actually calling the shots, wasn't also very excited about us too. So, yeah.
Well, cool. Let's thank Michael for coming out.